What's up, YouTube? It's Smashing Heroes again, coming back at you. Alright, this new video here that I got is for Sorcerer tanking. Alright, there's a couple different methods you can do to tank with sorcery. I'm going to give you one specific one right now, and then I can give you a couple ideas on what you can swap out, switch up, depending on what you want to choose. It does depend on your race, the kind of loadout that you're going to run. But I'll start with the champion point tree. We'll start there. So currently I got 20 into the Warlord. I got 42 in Mooncalf, 1 in Arcanist. I'm running 30 in Blade Expert just so I can get the blocking to return damage to the attacker. I got 31 in Mighty, 1 piercing, 1 piercing, precise strikes, do a little bit more damage. Not a whole lot. I got 32 in Blocks Expertise, excuse me. 1 Hardy, 1 Elemental Defender. I got 15 Quick Recovery, 14 Armor Focus. I mean, if you want, you could move some of these around. You don't have to do Armor Focus if you don't want more physical resistance. You can do more Block Expertise. Put some in a Hardy or Elemental Defender to reduce cost, of these specifics. But typically with spell resistance, it should take care of quite a bit of that. So, you shouldn't really have to significantly worry about that. Quick Recovery is a must. You want to increase the effectiveness of healing received from the healer. You definitely want to have that, so that way you receive the heals a lot quicker. All right, we'll move straight into what I'm using for gear-wise. All right, so I'm using Night Silence. I'm using 2-piece Night Silence. So I'm basically using 5-piece heavy, 2 light. So I want more of the physical resistance, some spell resistance from the light armor. You can do 6 and 1. It just all depends. I'm doing 5 and 2 though, so I'm doing 5 and 2. So this is basically how I got it loaded up here. So I'm using Night Silence as my sword. My offhand, I'm using Shield of Endurance. For the endurance set, I got neck rings. That's my 3-piece. Just an additional ring I threw in there. Just Stamina Recovery, Max Magicka. Hawk's Eye. You could use any ring pretty much for that. It doesn't have to be Hawk's Eye. You can just use whatever ring with Stamina Recovery and maximum stamina. Let's see here. I'm using a 2-handed for my back bar. I'll kind of explain why I'm using that for the back bar. Head, I'm using a Bulwark. So I'm using a full 4-piece Bulwark set, which will give me physical resistance, maximum health, physical resistance. On the Knight's Blade, what was I running on the Knight's Blade? Knight's Blade, 2-piece, maximum stamina. Let's see here. His Spark, 2-piece, physical resistance. You see what I'm saying? See where I'm going with that? Just more physical resistance. So it's just a lot of physical resistance that I got going on there. Plus the health. Just some things definitely help quite a bit. Alright, so basically loadout. So in the loadout on my front bar, on my sorting board, I'm using Ransack. Ransack, basically once you pierce, it'll reduce the physical resistance. You could use Piercing Armor, which does physical and spell resistance at 5280. I'm using Ransack to give me the extra physical resistance, which is 990 for 12 seconds for using that ability, as well as my on my sword. I'm using the Hardening enchantment, which grants shield on both weapons, so that way the weapons themselves will give me shield as well. 2-hand, make sure you use the increased physical and spell resistance. That way when you swap and you don't have your sorting board and you're lower on the actual physical resistance, it still brings it up a little bit, so you're not losing a whole bunch on that aspect. Okay. Inner Fire, I have the morph for it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it Magicka or stamina based, so I just left it Magicka unmorphed for the time being until I can figure out which I want to do, or resource management wise, which would be more beneficial to me. As of now, Magicka is working pretty well. Unstable Clan Fear. What I'm doing with that is it's kind of like a green dragon's blood essentially. So let's say you're really injured, and down at the bottom, see what it says, when the Clan Fear expires, it heals you for 35% of your maximum health. Rather, it dies or you unsummon it purposely. you get healed for 35% of your maximum health. It's kind of like Green Dragon's Blood. So like, you know, they'll use it when they're not getting healed in emergency. Let's say my healer goes down, I'm about to die. I can desummon my pet, 35% maximum health, resummon my pet, and then desummon it again, and it'll give me another 35% of whatever's left of the maximum health. So essentially, two summons and desummons will fill me up, you know, pretty much to the point where I can survive until the healer's back up off the ground. Bound armaments increases your physical resistance. Down at the bottom it says it increases mass magic by 5%. Bound arrayments is another morph of it, which was what I'm working on now, which will give you +5 to stamina instead of magicka. But it depends on your loadout and which way you want to go. Which would you do on that aspect? I mean, the stamina that I got now is working real well with my management that I have going on, so it's not a big deal. Instead of pets, if you don't want to use pets, you could use hardened ward. Definitely get a shield in there, so keeping your shields up will be a definite plus. You can even drop the bound armor, keep the pet. So keep the pet, put the bound armor off, and then use the shield there in place of that. That way you can shield yourself and have your pets out for that emergency heal if you need it, right? Absorb magic. The reason why I'm using absorb magic instead of like reflecting it back, or reflecting the projectiles, is because when you receive a projectile, it'll heal yourself for up to 12% of your maximum health. So if you get shot by like a lot of mages shoot them fire stabs and a lot of magic at you, when you pop that, it gives you 12% of your max health. So it heals you and it gives you magic back. So which is pretty sweet. So, I mean that's definitely something you want to be running for sure. That's a must. Plus it increases 8% of blocking just by having it on your bar. So yeah, you definitely want to have that on there. Front bar, I'm using Reviving Barrier. For those moments where healer's down, you get that 20,000 point shield, plus you get 15,000 health over 30 seconds, plus you can desummon your clan fear for health. I mean, that right there is just awesome. Awesome, awesome. Back bar, supercharge. I'm using absorption fields, resource management, get resources back, stop ads, like multiple ads, basically make them T-bow. They'll get down on their knee. They won't be able to summon, cast, attack, or do anything. They're totally negated. So you definitely want to be running this no matter what, front or back bar, whichever you choose. If you don't want to use barrier, this is a must. Like I'm not kidding you. If you're not using absorption field, you just might as well not even be tanking with the sorcerer. That's how I see it. Boundless Storm. Of course, you want the spell resistance increase in physical resistance 5280. Movement speed, fantastic. Let's say you don't want to be running Interfire and you just want to use Ransack because it'll taunt an enemy for 15 seconds just like Interfire will. Interfire is a long range. But let's say you pop your Boundless Armor and get the movement speed. You can run over real quick, stab a bunch of guys with your weapon, and they're automatically going to start chasing you. So not only did you debuff them, but you gained aggro, didn't waste stamina, you had fast movement speed, you're able to move across the board real easily. So that's even something you can even remove out of your loadout would be Interfire if you don't want to run it. So it's not an absolute must. I mean, it's ideal, especially for an ad that's real far away. You can pull in or get their attention instead of, trying to run from the boss to get them to come back. So depending on the boss fight and the mobs you're working through, the trash mobs, you really wouldn't have to run it during trash mobs. You'd be able to use, Ransack perfectly fine. And then boss battles, you might want to do that depending on how many ads come during the boss battle. If there's hardly any ads that come with the boss battle, I'd go ahead and just take that out, put a shield there, or you could put some type of negating. There's blood altar. That way you get the 20% health recovery. There's a couple different things you could use. In place of that, what I'm using is is Ring of Preservation. Ring of Preservation, you're taking 8% less damage, and you're getting health recovery by 20%. So it's kind of like using Blood Altar with the health recovery, and you're taking reduced damage. If you're fighting against Daedra or the Undead, you get an additional 4% reduction on damage. So that's 12% reduction against Daedra. Perfect. That's for those moments where you're taking a lot of damage, you got a lot of ads on you, you want to throw it on the ground, take less damage. It's fantastic. Brawler. This is why I'm using a two-hand. Significantly important for large trash mobs that are coming at you. Basically, when you swat the enemies in front of you using a mighty swing, dealing damage, blah, 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 bleed them, blah, blah, blah. But here's the most important part. It says also shields you from damage for 8 seconds, absorbing 1483 damage plus 100% for each enemy hit. So let's say you hit 10 enemies, that's 10,000 point shield. Why wouldn't you want that? Or it's more than 10,000. Okay? 8 enemies, 8,000 plus the 400 on you know on each 100%. But we'll just say baseline 8 grand. All right. I mean that's a shield. I mean swinging at nobody gets. I mean will give me a shield. I mean look at the shield I got right now. The white shield. Let me desummon this guy. You know what I'm saying? You see the shield there? Boom. Put a shield on me. See it? Now, if you hit, you know, 5, 6 guys in there, boom, 6,000 point shield, swap back to your front bar, and you got that shield right there. Plus, you could pop your defensive posture, absorb that real quick. You know what I mean? So I always start with Boundament Armor. Boom, get that going. Put it on both bars because when you swap bars, you won't have to recast it. It's permanent unless you decast it. It will never come off unless you hit that button. It'll always stay on you, so you always have that running at all times. All right. So I always pop that, maybe drop this, throw a quick swing real quick, get that shield up, boom. So you got maximum protection. Let's say you got your pet out, he's helping you tank, boom, 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 pulling aggro. I mean, it's great, great tank loadout. I mean, it's fantastic. You're in case of mercy, oh, I'm dying, boom, 33% health back, boom. It's just like Green Dragon's Blood. Spawn it up real quick, throw this back out, you're good to go, despawn them. Like, boom, you're back to full health, just like that. 70%, matter of seconds. It's fantastic. It's a great tank and loadout. With the choice of gear that I'm using with a 4-piece bulwark, 2 Night Silence, and 2 Hissbark is what I'm running. My physical resistance baseline without anything is 25,114. 18,876 is what I'm running on spell resist. All right. Maximum health, I'm running 23,592. Maximum stamina, 27,316. Plus another 5% I'll get when I get the bound arraignments. When I swap that from Magicka over to stamina, that'll put me up in the high 30s. I got 15 in the health to boost my health up a little bit. So that's my base. That's my base health. Then you pop food and such. You know what I mean? Or actually, I got food going right now. Tri-stat. So I got tri-stat food going, so that puts me at 23,592. I'm using all stamina. It's all of it is stamina. Stamina recovery on all the rings and jewelry. That's pretty much it. I mean, buffed up, so I mean just fully buffed. Plus that swing, and then even if I use puncture, it'll add a little bit more. It'll add like another 1,500. But you're sitting at 30,394. Physical resistance, 24,156. Spell resistance. It's a lot. It's fantastic. And like I said, I'm not gold. It's just basic 15 purple gear. Even my feet's blue. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, you know what I mean? It's something you can easily put together in a matter of minutes. It's not something you actually have to go farm for. This is something you can slap together, go tank for fun, be able to swap back out, change your champion points, and still go back out in DPS. You can pretty much even PvP with this. On your back bar, on the 2-hand, get rid of circle protection, keep your pet, keep everything on there, put a wrecking blow on that bad boy. You'll still be able to tank heavily. On the front right there, you can get rid of inner fire, put like if you got rid of inner fire, you could actually put heroic slash, build up your supercharge quite a bit. So you know you can put up your supercharge, reduce movement speed, all that good stuff. That's a nice thing to have. Even if you wanted to tank with this and not use inner fire and build your super up faster, so you can always consistently have your shield out, I would recommend that as well. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you can kind of modify the loadout that I have now, but this has worked real well for me. So, I mean, you could definitely try it out. Like I said, and you could start pulling pieces out that you don't want to use, like circuit protection if you don't want it. Put a shield, get rid of inner fire, just use your major expedition to run around, ransack everybody, and then in that spot right there, put heroic slash to build the supercharge faster. That way you can always have barrier up, always have the absorption field up at all times, pull trash mobs, and have a super pretty much every time you hit a new trash mob. As long as you were swinging that heroic shield, it would be full by the time you got over there. Great, great loadout. I mean, if you guys have any questions on it, definitely hit me up, leave a comment. I'll try to reply to it back as soon as I can, give some more ideas on it, but this is a definite plus on this right here. I definitely wouldn't run 2 sword boards. I would definitely run the 2-hand just so you can hit that swing, get that shield. It's real quick to hit it and switch back. You know what I'm saying? Especially on a trash mob, just real quick, bam, you could drop that, throw a couple buffs, and a swap back right away. A couple seconds.